Good evening, folks. How's it going? My name is Stuart. I'm here on the channel, Flawed Man of God, here to talk to you tonight. We'll be getting into Job. But first, let me do my introduction. Like I said, my name is Stuart Davis, Flawed Man of God, deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. Not a pastor, biblical scholar, haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. I'm just here to talk about God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, talk about Christianity, talk about the Bible, and talk about a wide variety of different issues, topics, current events, and give you my perspective on them, one that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non-denominational Protestant, don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination, just in the word daily, trying to do it better each and every day. Some days I'll get it right, many days I'll get it wrong, but it will always be an honest take when I am on here streaming to you. So if you are somebody who is interested in learning more about God, if you are a new Christian, if you are looking for answers and maybe wondering if there's more to this life than just your existence here on earth, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Hopefully this relaxed, nice, casual format given from a layperson's perspective will give you the right setting and the right motivation you need to get the information you need. Hopefully, begin that path to salvation, begin that relationship with God, begin that journey. Right? Maybe it starts here, maybe it started further back. Who knows? But if I can do whatever I can to help you out, I'll do it. I'll do it. That's what this is set up to do. This is the primary reason I started doing this stream. And hopefully I can reach you when you need it most with some answers and maybe springboard you into talk educating yourself. So maybe you're smarter than me about it. And there are many others who are, right? Like I said, I'm not a professional. I just do this as a hobby, as a some sort of mild discipleship outreach, whatever you call it. I'm just here trying to make a place for you to go to get answers. But it's not just for you folks. It's also for other folks. If you have already been a Christian for a while and maybe you already know more than me, you are still welcome to be here anywhere on that spectrum, or on any spectrum, except for a political spectrum. Communists aren't welcome here. But anywhere on the faith spectrum that you find yourself, I encourage you to tune in and hopefully you can get something out of this. We run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. We just want to talk about the word. And I encourage all of you to get into the chat. Give me your perspective, give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, give me your impressions, whether it's something I say, something we're talking about in the Bible, or something that's going on in your life that you just want to get off your chest. I mean, I'm not a I can't psychoanalyze you or do any of that stuff, but maybe we can just listen out and pray for you. And look, don't listen just to me. There are much smarter people in the chat. The chat is full of great folks. They tune in and night out and make this show better. I can't have a show as fun and great as this is without those folks. And so there you have it. Veritax first in the chat. MR coming in second, and Nernaeth. How are you guys doing? Right? Hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully you are having a good weekend. We had a very real reminder this weekend of how fleeting our lives are. My wife was coming back from an outing with the kids on Sunday, and there was she was witness to a motorcycle fatality on the road, and it wasn't pretty. It happened right behind her. She saw it in the rearview mirror. Luckily, the kids didn't see it, and it shook her up, as you would expect. So pray for that family. It was a young woman to riding motorcycles. She left behind, I think, a spouse or a boyfriend, but also a 13-year-old kid, and it sucks, right? Um, it wasn't the other driver's fault or it doesn't appear to be the other driver's fault. Obviously there's an investigation underway, but just based on what my wife had told me, um, just sometimes folks make mistakes, and sometimes that costs them. Motorcycles are dangerous vehicles, and they they just are. They just are. I know. I rode. I've ridden a lot. I've had 3 motorcycles, 4 motorcycles actually, in my life, and I've had my share of close calls. And fat chance on me getting one anytime soon after this. After my wife was witness to this, and having 3 very young kids in the game. So my riding days are uh, very much over for the time being. Ricade. Oh, Drex saw one a few weeks ago. I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard. I mean, it's one of those things where it's difficult. I have the soldier's outlook on death, violence, and that kind of stuff. We deal with it much like first responders deal with it, and doctors and whatnot, with a dark sense of humor for the most part. But that's not everybody, and that's not where my wife's at. So I just have to pray for me for guidance, that I know how to approach this situation, with understanding, because that scene has replayed in her head quite a few times. Like I said, she wasn't involved in it at all, but she just happened to see them pulling out, and she looked in her rearview mirror right as she passed, and saw what ended up being pretty much a head-on collision. So, and the person was pronounced dead at the scene. So life is fleeting, and sometimes we leave behind or are left behind in difficult situations, right? This is interesting that this happens while we're going through Job. Somebody is going through their own personal battles, and hopefully they have faith. Hopefully they have fellow Christians around them. Hopefully they have, or hopefully they know to reach out to God. You always have God. That's the thing. You always have God. He's always there waiting. You just have to reach out. You just have to do it. And there you go. There you go. That's somber. I might be on a show tomorrow night after this show, or Thursday night after this show. We're trying to work that gentleman who's been on the show before, who I've been friends with a long time, another associate of Nick Ricada, part of our friend group, who is also an associate of a loose associate, I believe, of Dick Masterson, is Joel Chury, Joe Chaco. He is he used to be on a podcast that just wrapped up called Here's What I Don't Get. It formed off, it was him, a guy named, got another guy named Nick, who actually I believe he did the intro for Nick Ricada's show, and Mad Cucks. And he has started his own show called High Trust, Low Context. And he has invited me to go on that show. I don't think it's on YouTube. It might be on YouTube. I'm not sure. But we are talking about doing one at 9:30 Eastern time. So we will make sure that we wrap things up that night in enough time to get that to get onto that. And I will let you guys know what to expect. I'll provide links and do all that other stuff. I still owe the Discord group some background story on some of the things that I'm dealing with right now. Nothing well, it's nothing dire, right? So there you go. Anyway, all right. What do we got? MR had a question. Beartax said, buy a horse instead. You get thrown off of those too, right? Just ask Christopher Reeves. Life is short, and the day of the Lord is not far off. Amen. Amen. MR said, question for the chat. Do I take a job that I like and helps people, something I'm more inclined to do naturally, but pays less, or one that pays slightly better with more growth, but is pretty tough? Well, it sounds almost like it almost sounds like apples to oranges, and maybe I think it's probably just how you're putting it down. So you have one job. Does it pay? It pays less, but does it pay well? Right? Does it pay the bills? Does it give you some spending money? Does it give you some saving money? Does it do those things? That would be great. If you like doing it, is it fun for you, or is it rewarding for you because, like you said, you like it, it helps people, it's very natural to you, etc. And then you have the other one, said plays slightly better with more growth, but is pretty tough. Well, pretty tough doesn't necessarily mean it's not rewarding. It doesn't say that it doesn't help people. But you also say it pays slightly better. But I guess you mean it pays slightly better at the beginning, and it has potential to be much more than slightly better. Look, this is coming from somebody who has had a career in the crossroads. As in my consulting, I have had several job offers. I had an opportunity to go work for a very big chemical company in Wilmington, but that meant relocating to Wilmington, and that's Wilmington, Delaware. And that probably answers that question to everybody. Wilmington, Delaware. That meant moving to Wilmington, Delaware. I am not moving to Delaware at all. That is not my place. I had an opportunity to go work for the Department of Defense at a GS-12 level, and that would have been very lucrative, but it also meant moving to the St. Louis area. And as a Cincinnati Reds fan, absolutely not. In the end, really, what mattered to me was, did I have a stable job doing something I enjoy that pays the bills? And what else mattered to me was, I was close to home. I was close to my church and family. I have roots where I live. Then those roots are very important to me. And oddly enough, when I talked to my dad about this, after I'd made these decisions, he told me that when he was working for AT&T, he had very similar opportunities. And do I pack the kids up and take them away, and then they're not close to any relatives, or do I stay and just make the most of the opportunities I have around me? Now, fortunately, I don't. If I lived in the Appalachians or in another area of the country where opportunity and income aren't guaranteed or aren't very good, that might be a different story. However, I live in an area with a good school system. I live in an area that I like, low crime. It's a nice piece of my own heaven. right? My own paradise. So I decided to stay. Now I chased another opportunity because of that. And that meant, switching industries a little bit from what I do. And that ended up biting me in the end, but it positioned me more to where I am now. So it, sometimes you make a sometimes you make a good decision, sometimes you make a bad decision, but rolling through it, you might find that bad decision puts you right where you need to be. So the best thing to do is make the best decision you have with the information that's available to you. And if it ends up, oh yeah, thank you, baby duty. Make the best decision that you have with the information you have available to you at the time. And don't perseverate over it if it ends up not panning out well, or not going the way you expected, or ends up being a disaster. You did the best you could. You made the best decision you could. And there's no sense struggling with what ifs. There just isn't. So there you go. And I know the chat's been going on since I've been on that little rant. Matt Felty's here. Welcome, sir. Emmanuel's here. Woohoo! Good to see the usual crew and the usual suspects in here. You're all sus to me. Hello there, everyone. Good to start another reading. Yes. Veritax said, tough question, Amar. I'm running through similar quandary. I'm often torn between things I can do, but have little room for growth. I've been there too. Small industries sometimes give you that. Oh, great. I've got the connection light. So if I'm in and out, or if my picture is wonky, I'm sorry, guys. Small industries can do that. Anything, a little room for growth, and things which will require growth. Sometimes one or the other helps people more. Sometimes it's the reverse. I remember, here's what I don't get. It was with Joe, older fellow, right? Well, I don't know everybody. So it started off with another guy named Nick and Joel Chaco. And that was going on right at the onset of the Dick Show. And then at some point, Mad Cooks took over. Tab, or whatever his name is, Tab took over and really kind of gave it the curating that it needed. They couldn't, the two hosts couldn't dedicate, I don't think, the time that it really needed to make it work the way they wanted to. And then, like I said, I think last month was its last episode. So, Chaco's a little bit older than me. And Mark said, that's actually true, Veritex. I think you understand that well. Just let us know how it shakes out for you. Let us know what you decide, MR, and how it shakes out for you. Matt Felty said, kingdom greater than empire. Tough equals dirtyish. You mean like slimy, grimy? Or do you mean like micro dirty jobs? Veritex, jobs are so fleeting. The average techie changes jobs every 18 months now. That seems insane to me. I usually plan to stay for 5 years, but lasted 4 at the most recent job. Well, I mean, everybody's hiring, Veritex, but tech has always kind of had that feel to it, even though I have a cousin who deals more with like hardware, the hardware side of tech, or like installation and troubleshooting and that kind of stuff. And he's been with the same company for years, except for one's been bought out and stuff like that. But but I know a lot of IT, a lot of developers, a lot of those guys seem to go all around the plate, all around. But other places, it doesn't seem to be as bad as that. That's why I like just a nice tight knit industry that you're in, and that you end up knowing everybody. That way, there's always you're never new at your job. Veritex, there's no guarantee of longevity anymore. Now that's true. The only guarantee that if you grow your skills and it's the right skills, that may help you down the road. Irenaeus says, labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom. Also give me neither poverty nor riches, lest I say, who is the Lord? Or be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. Great. Yeah. Put me right in the middle. What's going on, Dresden? Glad to have you here. That's also a great consideration from Veritax and what Stu is saying about my roots, all in the factoring here. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of tertiary or a lot of peripheral issues that probably have to be addressed. Don't sell your soul for money or career. I did it. Not worth it. It absolutely is not. Look, your job is your job. Your life is your life. All right. And Dresden with the proverbial, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. Fairtax says the other thing, just because you can grow in a job doesn't mean it's not more stress. If you can grow outside of the job, that's easier. That could be a thing to consider too. Sometimes you make a good decision, get too comfortable, and then have to make a new decision because you didn't plan for it. Plans, what is it about plans? They don't last the first 5 minutes of battle. And Mark said, I literally screenshotted the chat. Thanks for giving me something to chew on, guys. Hey, best of luck to you. God be with you in whatever decision you make. And you're welcome anytime. Anytime from me and obviously from the chat. We love to help out. I think that's one of the things that I like about this chat a lot. We're always trying to help each other, lift each other up. That's good. That's good community. I like to ask God, where can he use me the most? And apparently my service to government plus enough payments equals my student loans are declared forgiven. Wasn't expecting that. And with what's been going on in the news, I have a close friend who had something very similar happen. Angel said, I've been enjoying Armored Core 6, and it's a banger game if you're looking for something to play. I have been playing it. I'm trying to remember what sortie I'm on. I just did Operation Wall Climber, and I think I'm 2 sorties past that. Blaine's here. What's up? I was on his show. Guys, a lot of times you'll find me just, if I can't stand it and I have to run my mouth, I will pop on the Blaine stream because he is a great and open host. And I love that. Love that. Great community. Can't say enough again about Blaine's stream. He's a great dude. And if you like anime, go be part of that show. Be part of that community too. So that's the first 25 minutes almost. Let me get that out of the way. Let's get into the show proper. We've been talking about Job, right? We're about a quarter of the way through. But the first big points of the book happen at the beginning, right? So here's the rehash. Job's a righteous man, good enough in the eyes of the Lord that God brags on him to Satan, right? Seeing my man's down there. Satan goes, well, what if I did this? And I bet you he won't stay that way if bad things happen to him. If God real, why bad thing happen? And so God says, okay. Satan goes down, takes away all of Job's livestock, kills his family, kills his servants, and there you have it. So Job goes from being a wealthy man in financial respects and in family respects to very poor and destitute in both. The next time God says, hey, you did all that. Job is still loyal to me. He has not cursed me or blamed me at all. And Satan goes, okay, well, what if I do something to his person? And God said, okay, but you can't kill him. So Satan then torments his dreams, it seems, but definitely attacks his health with skin diseases, lesions, that kind of stuff. It's a very bad situation for him. He is miserable. He is at rock bottom. And then he has to watch his wife basically say, "Why don't you just give up, curse God, and die?" He goes out and just sits in silence. He is joined by 3 friends, and they sit with him in silence for a great deal of time. And then finally, after Job has sat long enough, he laments the day he was born and all the things that have happened to him. He doesn't curse God, doesn't blame God for this, but he just talks about how he just wishes he had never been born. He's very depressed, and his comments reflect that. Um, then, in turn, each of his friends talks up, uh, gives their opinions, their uneducated opinions, and he has to respond to each of them. We've heard from 2 of the friends so far, Eliphaz and Bildad. And tonight we'll hear from the 3rd friend, Zophar. Blaine said Armor Core 6 is downloading, and apparently PragerU is going into Oklahoma schools. What is that all about? All right, so let me pop up things. The only person look, where's my man Porcupine? I haven't heard from him in a while. Nico's not here, so I'm going to go find Nico. All right. Chapter 10. Job chapter 10. Job despairs of God's dealings. I am disgusted with my life and loathe it. This is Job talking, by the way, folks. I am disgusted with my life and loathe it. I will give free expression to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not condemn me and declare me guilty. Show me why you contend and argue and struggle with me. Does it indeed seem right to you to oppress, to despise and reject the work of your hands, and to look with favor on the schemes of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as a man sees? Or your days as the days of a mortal, and your years as a man's years? That you seek my guilt and search for my sin? Although you know that I am not guilty or wicked, yet there is no one who can rescue me from your hand. Your hands have formed and made me altogether. Would you turn around and destroy me? Remember now that you have made me as clay, so that you will turn me into dust again. Have you not poured me out like milk and curdled me like cheese? You have clothed me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and loving kindness, and your providence, divine care, supervision has preserved my spirit. Yet these present evils you have hidden in your heart since my creation. You know that this was within you in your purpose and thought. If I sin, you would take note and observe me, and you would not acquit me of my guilt. If I am wicked, woe to me, for judgment comes. And if I am righteous, I dare not lift up my head, for I am sated and filled with disgrace in the sight of my misery. Should I lift my head up, you would hunt me like a lion. And again, you would show your marvelous power against me. You renew your witness against me and increase your indignation and anger towards me. Hardship after hardship is with me, attacking me time after time. Why then did you bring me out of the womb? Would that I had perished and no eye had seen me. Should I have been as though I had not existed? I should have been carried from the womb to the grave. Would he not let my few days alone? Withdraw from me, that I may have a little cheer. Before I go, and I shall not return, to the land of the darkness and the deep shadow of death. The sunless land of utter gloom is darkness itself, the land of the shadow of death without order, and where it shines as thick darkness. All right, so Nothing, not really anything new here. Job is despairing. Job, when I read this, I really feel like Job sees himself as a man standing in the way of a tidal wave. He is absolutely powerless to stop what is getting ready to happen to him. He cannot fight against something so elemental, so powerful, and yet he still understands that he can cry out to God. I'm disgusted with my life and loathe it, and I will basically he's like, I hate where I'm at. I hate what my life has become now, not through his own doing, just what has become of it. Obviously, as we know, the backstory of all this. He hates where the state of his life right now, and so he goes, I'm just gonna let what I think fly. But while there's salt in what he's saying and depression, what you don't find is condemnation. You don't find um, malice. You don't see here any vendetta that Job is holding against God. You say you deem this is so, then it is so. There's nothing. Who am I to lash out at you? But he is kind of lashing out in just the fact that he is not understanding. It's like, I haven't done anything to deserve this, and yet you've still done this. But I can't. There's no appeal. This is this ties in with the previous chapter in chapter 9. There's no arbitrator between God and man. MR. There's no lawyer. There's no court. What God will, again, as Christians, as human beings, though whether we choose to acknowledge God or not, we live in a monarchy. Or like in my house, the benevolent dictatorship. God is in charge. God created. God rules. God decides. Right? Plain says loving and being faithful to God doesn't mean you're an eternal optimist. This sucks doesn't mean I hate God. Bingo. This sucks doesn't mean that God is an evil person. This sucks doesn't mean I don't believe in him anymore. This sucks doesn't mean I'm going to go do things my way. I'm going to go all out and on my own. I'm going to go sin. I'm going to sin even harder now. Of course, there's no lawyers in heaven. You know why there's no arbitrator? Because God doesn't want any of that trash up there. I'm going to have to pass that off to Nick. All right. So, with that said, that's what he's saying. He goes, does it indeed seem right to you to oppress and despise and reject work? You made me. You made me. And yet now you are going to break me. But why? Why? Because he can understand maybe if he was rebellious. Although you know that I am not guilty or wicked, yet there is no one who can rescue me from your hand. So he knows. Job suspects that he is righteous, that he is the man that we know he is. Mid's the man that God described to Satan. Because he does what he's supposed to. He's obedient. He's honoring. He puts God first. And yet still these things happen to him. Job is every man in this chapter. Job is stronger maybe even than every man. Job is working through these emotions pretty well. And while some of us can work through them like this, or hopefully a fraction as well, there are many of people who don't work through this at all. That they immediately blame God. They immediately hold him in contempt. But the way God, or the way Job takes this is, it is what it is. God says, and it's so. Who am I to argue with that? But a lot of this is, you've made me, you gave me life, you gave me love, and yet you punish me in this way. And I am wishing that you didn't make me at all. Without the love, without the care. I wish you just didn't care and didn't make me. Zophar rebukes Job. Of course, why not? In many cases, some of this is just, Job grandstanding his, and not in the way grandstanding that he's looking for attention. This is a man just calling out because he doesn't have any other option. Doesn't have anywhere else to go. Um, Other than those moments, much of this has felt like, instead of calling this book Job, just Job, maybe calling it the trials of Job. And trials being two different levels. Trials as in the trials that Satan puts him through, and the fact that it's often he often feels like he's on trial, or it's often appears that he's on trial with his friends there to act as prosecutor. And they're all just each person is taking their turn to get up and talk about what he did wrong, why he's guilty, explain to everybody and explain to Job why he's guilty. And so Zophar is next here. Then Zophar the Naamathite answered and said, "Shall a multitude of wait before I go in there, Nernaeth, is your name, since it starts with an N, is hard to pronounce? Are you a Naamathite? Naamathite? Naamath? Yeah, daggone it! I got it right the first time. Never mind. I'm going to go back to reading, and I'm going to shut up about the stupid quip I was trying to make." Then Zophar the Naamathite answered and said, "Shall a multitude of words not be answered? And should a talkative man, making such a long-winded defense, being acquitted?" Oh my goodness! It's like, you sure talk a lot. "Should your boasts and babble silence men? And shall you scoff, and no one put you to shame?" So basically, like, look, you're saying you're blameless, but we know you're not perfect. We know you've got something to hide. And so you sit up here and you're bragging to us about how great and how righteous you are. Do you expect us not to get up here and put you in your place? He is a lawyer. "For you have said, my teaching doctrine, that God knowingly afflicts the righteous, is pure, and I am innocent in your eyes. But oh, that God would speak and open his lips to speak to you." Yeah. Be careful what you ask for, Zophar. That God would speak and open his lips to speak against you, and that he would show you the secrets of wisdom. For sound wisdom has two sides. Know therefore that God forgets a part of your wickedness and guilt. No, no. God God's gonna forget all this bad stuff that you have done that you just don't want to admit to. Can you discover the depths of God? Can you, by searching, discover the limits of the Almighty, ascend to his heights, extend to his widths, and comprehend his infinite perfection? Cubed, it sounded like. Heights, he missed lengths. Can you travel to his lengths, extend to his heights, and extend to his widths? Length, width, and height. Now we just have God squared. Come on, man. We got to go with Trinity anyway. His wisdom is as high as the heights of heaven. What can you do? It is deeper than Sheol, the netherworld, the place of the dead. What can you know? It is longer in measure and scope than the earth, and broader than the sea. If God passes by or arrests or calls an assembly of judgment, who can restrain him? Yeah. No, of course, Job just got finished that if God, who is going to stop God? Nobody. Job has already said that. Nobody's going to. If he is against a man, who can call him to account for it? Again, repetitive. Job has already said this. For he recognizes and knows false and worthless men, and he sees wickedness. Will he not consider it? So there you go. And again, your Zophar has been the most openly hostile to Job's reputation here. And maybe it's because he's responding after Job is talking about this. I haven't done anything wrong. I didn't do deserve anything to deserve this. And then Zophar coming in here, oh, clearly you did. And it must be something awfully bad. And who are you to lie to us and say that you haven't done something bad when we know by what God has done to you that you did do something to deserve it? What a chooch. He said, are you too dumb, Job, to take advantage of God? But a hollow, empty headed man will become intelligent and wise only when the colt of a wild donkey is born as a man. That apparently that's some saying. I'll let you guys decipher that one. I mean, it sounds like it's basically when hell freezes over, when an empty headed man will become intelligent and wise. We'll hear more stuff like that when we reach to Psalms and Proverbs. We'll hear more things like that, especially in Proverbs. If you direct your heart on the right path and stretch out your hands to him, if sin is in your hand, put it far away from you, and do not let wrongdoing dwell in your tents. Then indeed you could lift up your face to him without moral defect, and you would be firmly established and secure and not fear. For you would forget your trouble. You would remember it as waters have passed by, and your life would be brighter than the noonday. Darkness then would be like the morning. Then you would trust with confidence, because there is hope. You would look around you and rest securely. You would lie down with no one to frighten you, and many would entreat and seek your favor. But the eyes of the wicked will fail. But the eyes of the ranger are upon you. That's not in there. I added that. That is not part of the Bible, guys. That is part of the song to Walker, Texas Ranger. But the eyes of the wicked will fail, and they will not escape this justice of God, and their hope is to breathe their last and die. So basically, it's like you are crying the cry of the wicked. You were singing the song of the guilty, and you still try to convince us that you didn't do anything wrong. Again, who knows God? This is me paraphrasing what Zophar is saying here. Zophar, these guys need what's his face's jump to conclusion, Matt, from Office Space, because like Nernaev is saying here, guilty before innocent. Yeah. So I'm gonna get back to Nernaev in a second. So MR, this is something again, no due process here. I think we talked about this last week. They're giving him no due process. It's just the evidence is that bad thing happened to you, and then another bad thing happened to you, and then another bad thing happened to you. So clearly you did something wrong. It's not what God asks or expects of us. That's not how we're supposed to treat each other. Renee said, I wait. Zophar is arguing God is unknowable, so it's useless to try to understand. He is arguing that Job has broken God's law and needs to figure out what it is to placate him. Yeah, but again, he's kind of repeating what he doesn't add anything to this other than imply that he's done something. He is wicked and is a liar. Because everything else he says is pretty much stuff that Job has already said. He seems to overlook entreaty to God and emphasize that man needs to work to come to God rather than God reaching down to man. I feel like it's supposed to be a two-way street. I mean, is wasn't that the point of having a covenant? I do this to you, you do this for me. I do this for you, you do this for me. It's an agreement made from out of mutual love and devotion. A lot of people don't focus on devotion, that it is God has devoted himself to us in many ways. He devoted his son, Jesus, right? That's devotion. That's example. His aspect is different from ours, though. We are the inferior. He is the perfect being, right? But that doesn't mean he doesn't love us less than we love him. That doesn't mean that when he is less devoted to us, you would say that he is more devoted to us, because God has patience more than we have. And maybe that partially comes from being a perfect being, and partially because he is timeless, so patience is different. But devotion is not, when people go, oh, you just devote yourself to some, flying spaghetti monster, insert Reddit, tired Reddit phrase, you devoted to Sky Daddy, and he just absorbs it all and never reciprocates. Of course he does. He's reciprocated. He started the devotion. By creating us. And where we live, we have seen the most devotion from God, because we saw that ultimate act. Emmanuel says, damn, these so-called friends not even given the benefit of the doubt. You need to stand with your friend when he is in a tough spot. I guess maybe they think that this is going to help. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing to rebuke your brother when he's done something wrong. But again, it comes back to what we say. They don't know what he's done wrong. They don't know that he's done anything wrong. They are assuming. Ernest says, God has always reached out first and furthest to man throughout history. God never asks us to make progress to reach him. He is always within our reach if we exercise faith. You know, maturing and growing your faith is progress, right? But yeah, I get what you're saying, Ernest. And so here we have Zophar, Bildad, and Eliphaz, all with nothing real. It might sound helpful at first glance, but when you think about it, when you look at it from Job's perspective. Try to look at it in the eyes of a man who is truly righteous at heart and has some awareness that he is that, and try to accept what these guys are saying. And once you take that perspective, then you realize that these guys, kind of acting like asses, are making asses out of themselves, because they talk in circles. They don't really make a point. There's a lot of implications, lying and I don't want to say lying and implying, but there's a lot of implying. And again, they've never asked, are you? They never asked, are you sure you don't? Are you sure you didn't do anything wrong? And then take him at face value because they have no reason to believe he doesn't. I mean, they have no proof to say that he doesn't. You can't condemn a man righteously without proof. God gives specific instructions for that. And that didn't just start with Leviticus. That's when it got recorded and written down. God is consistent. And so that's where we'll leave off tonight. Hopefully you guys had a good Labor Day weekend. Which means this is going to be a short week. Get a long weekend and a short week to follow. It's great. It's awesome. So, with that, having said that, we're going to close out tonight. We will be streaming tomorrow. as we continue going through Job. I will be streaming tomorrow. It might be a shorter stream, either Wednesday or Thursday night, if I go on to a high trust, low context show. And like I said, I'll give you guys a link to that. Joel Chaco is a Catholic. He lives in he lives outside of the continental United States, and he is somebody who, even though we have very different denominations and we have different outlooks on faith to a degree, he is much more organized than I am, or organizational based than I am, and I am very much eschew the bureaucracy of large churches. Um, we talk often of our faith and what it is we're dealing with. So he has graciously invited me onto a show. We just don't know when we're going to have that. Um, we don't know whether that's going to be this week at all, and if it'll be tomorrow or Thursday. But it will be probably at 9:30, whatever, because I want to roll into his show after mine and take as many of you guys with me to that show so that he has some sort of obvious or audience. I don't think it's going to be a debate. I mean, we're not the kind who want to debate each other on things. We might ask each other questions. It's probably going to be a discussion, and go from there. So, with that said, guys, what do we have? Thanks, Matthew, and you're welcome, Mr. Emmanuel said Job really is going through the ringer, but it just goes to show you the appreciation of the life and privileges that we have in our own life, and Job's appreciation for having it. He's miserable without it, right? Gave me all this great blessings, and he took them all away very violently and abruptly. My family. So I will make sure I ping the Discord. And I'll see what I can do about posting a link in the chat, or in the live chat too. What else? I think that's it. All right. So Matt Felty, MR, Emmanuel, Nernaeth, Veritax, Blaine, Dresden. That might be it. I think that's the kid. That's the crowd, folks. Thank you for your ears tonight. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. MR, thank you for being open with us, and talking about, just some choices that you have to make. Again, making these decisions is part of maturing and growing up in this world. And, no matter what happens, you're going to have a bit of advice. You're going to have a bit of knowledge and maturity at the end of it. So, congratulations for that at the minimum. To everybody listening and not commenting, look, I always encourage people to comment, but I don't require it. I'd love for you guys to share your opinions, but if you guys just want to listen, that's fine as well. Maybe you just don't have anything you want to add. That's cool. To everybody listening to this on the replay, hope to catch you live soon. You guys have a great night, and God bless.